Eric Trump slammed for particularly disgusting Memorial Day weekend post. HuffPost. How dare you tweet this weekend, former GOP rep. Adam Kinzinger fired back at Donald Trump's son. Below are your comments. Tonight, I watched the annual Memorial Day concert which honors servicemen and women who served during all our wars. It is a loving tribute to the people who served, died and spent precious time away from their families to help keep our country from being destroyed. Many members of all the service. See more. My mother is the youngest of 11 siblings, so photos of my 3 uncles that served in World War II were not shared except for one, in which one of my uncles was holding my 2-year-old mother in his arms and dressed in his uniform before he went to war never to return. Only one did. A couple generations of silver spoon people talking about sacrifice. I was never in the military, but my father and grandfather were, as well as my stepbrother, so I have respect. I remember in 2016 when Trump gave an interview and they asked if he ever sacrificed anything. He said something to the effect of, "I think I've sacrificed a lot, I've built great structures." That was it. That was his answer. From Captain Bone Spurs. In an unearthed interview from 1997, Donald Trump claimed he was a brave soldier for avoiding STDs during his single years in the late 90s. It's amazing, I can't even believe it. 00. I've been so lucky in terms of that whole world. It is a dangerous world out there. It's like Vietnam, sort of. It is my personal Vietnam. I feel like a great and very brave soldier, Trump said in the interview when Howard Stern asked how he handled making sure he wasn't contracting STDs from the women he was sleeping with. The business OGUL turned politician elaborated on the fact in the interview, calling women's 00. I have members of my family in the past who served. Some were never sent into battle and I'm not aware of any who lost their lives. I honor their service but I never remember any of them saying they sacrificed anything. My understanding of Memorial Day is to remember those who truly sacrificed all, even for Eric Trump. Next news. CNN legal expert says idea of Trump being acquitted in hush money cases, out of reach. The Hill. CNN's legal expert Norm Eisen said there's little chance of former President Trump being acquitted in his criminal hush money trial after jury deliberation this week, but that a result is far from dead. Prosecutors allege Trump illegally covered up hush money payments made to a porn actor in the weeks before the 2016 election. Below are your comments. Robertson, how many cases has Mr. Eisen tried? He must have some type magic that most lawyers do not process. I fail to understand how he can state. The odds of conviction are somewhere upwards of 80%. Quote, 00. I have tried cases for dozens and dozens of lawyers and law firms for over 50 years. See more. I am old and won't suffer much, but 2024 is the year Americans will either support democracy or lose. it to autocracy, and if you don't know who favors autocracy, you have never seen an elephant. Your children and grandchildren will either enjoy what your parents and grandparents did, or they will live in what your parents and grandparents died for and defeated in World War II, the same state of country that exists all over the rest of this earth. That enemy is within us here, and at least 25 to 35% are on board, mainly because they have been duped or played that the democracy and what they have had just hasn't been good enough. What is offered is not better, it is far worse. He'll probably be convicted on some counts, but not all. Any convictions will surely result in the usual diatribes and insults of the judge, when it's actually the jury's duty to acquit or convict. Also the vows to appeal. Being a state case and not a federal one, Trump's appeal options are probably limited. Stay tuned, and keep the popcorn hot. Being a CNN legal expertise not require much in the way of expertise. I seem to remember Michael Avenatti being touted as presidential material at one point in the Stormy Daniels circus. John Haywood said, "There's none so blind as those who will not see." Meaning that you can't force understanding on someone who is choosing to be ignorant of a specific truth. Next news. Mark Hamill strikes back at Trump's awkward cell phone with perfect Star Wars tweak. HuffPost. The former president's own warning came back to bite him. Below are your comments. If you listen carefully to everything Trump says about other people, you realize that every single time he's actually talking about himself. He's an interesting case. I've been wondering why he was invited, and now I know. The party knew he would be totally owned by the attendees. Not surprised Trump didn't figure that out ahead of time. But then, he rarely figures out anything in particular. When are the Republicans going to realize that Trump is toxic to himself, his party, and the United States of America? His comments a few weeks ago put it all in perspective. Here's Trump's exact quote. "If I don't win on November 5th, I think our country is going to cease to exist. It could be the last election we ever have. 0-0. I actually mean that. 0-0. If we don't win, I think this could be the last election we ever have." And let's not forget his recent comment about a bloodbath in America. The MAGA agenda is designed to destroy our democracy and to promote Trump's authoritarian regime. Trump is detrimental to our freedom and to the future of this country. How could one man think he is greater than our entire country? The mental state of his mind is of great concern. 4 more years of Trump's lies and political chaos, no thanks. Enough is enough. I am a registered Republican, but I will not be voting for Trump in November, and you should do the same if you want to save this country. Mark Hamill is a national treasure not only for his acting career, but his activism off-screen, including his scathing satire of Mango Mussolini. But it's hard to satirize someone who is beyond a parody of himself. The projection is strong with Trump. When he points at someone and says the person is this or that, it usually applies to him, himself in spades. Start listening and you will clearly hear it. Next news. Watch Trump react to getting booed at Libertarian convention. CNN. Former President Donald Trump was loudly and consistently booed throughout his speech to the Libertarian convention, particularly when he asked attendees to nominate me or at least vote for me. CNN's Steve Contorno reports. Below are your comments. Lifelong conservative, and this is why Trump is afraid to appear at any major sporting events. He would get booed out of the building. They have to manufacture small events where hundreds, etc. come, and they then have to lie and say it was many thousands. Most of the nation knows what he is about and cannot stand him. Such beautiful booing I have never seen. So beautiful. And it was bigly booing too. Absolutely stupendous. Started the moment he took the stage, and just like Lionel Richie, went on all night long. So beautiful. It is well past the time for the silent majority speak up and tell Trump how he is perceived. Trump just experienced what he is going to see in November. Outside of MAGA world, this is what people think of him. He is just going to continue to grift up to, and maybe after the election that he is going to lose. He knows what time it is. And it's going to be another loss, but greater than his loss in 2020. He's actually the perfect candidate for them. Their views on business all favor big business doing whatever it wants with no government oversight, and he doesn't care anything about abortion, LGBTQ people, etc. So libertarians' hands-off stance on those issues is just fine with him. He only pretends to care in order to entice the religious right into voting for him. In truth, he has no morals, religion whatsoever. Not sure he would go along with the legal drugs thing, since his family gave him an aversion to substance abuse, but that's the only item of possible conflict. Their endgame is the uber wealthy running things without government oversight and regulations, and that is exactly what Donald Trump tries to do in his own business. Next news. Donald Trump owns a multi-million-dollar fleet of VIP aircraft, including his prized Boeing 757 Airliner. Take a look at his private collection. Business Insider. Donald Trump has a history of flaunting his riches. Among the most grandiose displays is the Boeing 757 private jet he bought for $100 million in 2011. Below are your comments. And just yesterday, Eric Trump emailed about the Trumps, the family that gave it all to save America. This article about the conspicuous wealth demonstrates to all just how much the Trumps gave. Actually, they've pretty much been on the receiving end the whole time. Under Trump's tax plan, taxpayers footed bill for luxury private jets, yachts, vacation homes and Air maintenance while middle class got no effective tax cuts. W caps on mortgage deduction and LME. Nation of writing off state taxes. Trump rewarded only richest with the biggest tax cut in history while the rest of us paid for it, adding to the biggest contribution to the national debt ever. Conspicuous consumption. Luxury of the elite classes, which insist to the peasantry that class warfare doesn't exist. These are the masters we serve, who never do a real day's work in their lives. Fleet, the 757 and a helicopter. Paul Allen, an actual billionaire, got rid of that 757 and bought something better. Trump wouldn't be able to afford to keep using it without begging for donations all the time. No legit businesses except airlines are operating 757s because the operating costs make no sense. Our non-revenue use. Trump's big tax cuts, which he claimed would benefit the little guy, actually increases taxpayer subs. IDs for privately owned jets like Trump's personal Boeing 757 that his sons get around in. You can't make this stuff up. Next news. CBS anchor tells Buttigieg Trump is not wrong when it comes to Biden's struggling EV push. Fox News. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg faced pushback over a lack of progress in transitioning to electric vehicles despite massive federal investment. Below are your comments. We bought a hybrid because we travel very long distances several times a year. A trip for me to the grocery store is about 180 miles round trip, as are all doctor appointments. I live in the middle of nowhere and an electric car would be useless. I can see the value if you never go anywhere but see more. I know most of you are onto this, but don't ever forget that whenever any government officials use the term investment, they really mean spending, and their investment rarely has an acceptable rate of return. They have no clue. The technology is not ready for prime time. Neither is the utility or charging infrastructure. Government mandates don't work. Build a better mousetrap and the consumer will buy it. I am not ready to buy an EV mostly because of expense and range. They are expensive to purchase and repair, and the wear and tear on these vehicles' systems is significantly higher than gas or hybrid cars. Hybrid is the way to go. It offers the best of both worlds. Nothing like pushing a product which does not have the infrastructure to support it on a daily basis, nor the infrastructure for direct access of materials without relying on countries which are not favorable to the United States. Toss in the higher pricing for EVs, even with the federal subsidies, and Americans are simply not interested. Next news. I'm an economist. Here are my predictions for inflation if Trump wins. Go banking rates. The 2024 election will be here before you know it, and economists are watching it closely. If Donald Trump wins a second term, some experts believe it could affect the trajectory of inflation. In the below are your comments. No mention of energy, which really impacts price of everything, especially if the product is produce. D in U.S. Inflation is all about oil prices, which is the basis for the cost of everything else. Transportation, mining, energy, shipping, farming, raw materials, travel, construction, timber, metals, plastics, packaging, postage, freight, etc. The compounding effect of high oil prices is staggering. We should have the same tariff rates as the countries we trade with. If China wants to prevent U.S. goods from reaching their shores, then we should do the same. Also include Japan and any other countries that limit their trade with the U.S. If we stopped printing and spending, giving money away at such an accelerated pace, it would make a huge impact on inflation. This expert made zero mentions of increased domestic production of energy, i.e., lower fuel prices. Zero mention of stopping spending on student loan forgiveness, a potential treaty with Ukraine, Russia, etc. All of these things would have major positive consequences to bring down inflation. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.